Stanford did a credibility research study for the web and found that 75% of users will admit to making judgments about a company's overall credibility based on their website design. I'm surprised it's only 75%, to be honest. This week I was researching in the handyman contractor space online, and I can't tell you how many websites I looked at and I was like, nope, within 2 seconds, because the website was just super outdated.
Let's get started so we're not wasting everybody's time. I am super excited about this one. I have ASHLI NIXON with me today. She's also an e-com expert that I have in Circle in the space. So if you need to reach her, she's there as well. But she is a managing partner with Basis, and they specialize in branding and website development, design, you name it, they build it. And they do a great job. Their team actually helped me come up with Shopify, the branding side.
Love it.
So I love it. Hopefully you guys like it too. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to ASHLI.
Hey, good morning. I'm ASHLI. Like Evan mentioned, I run Basis. We are a small e-commerce studio. We build brands and websites specifically for Shopify businesses. So we work with clients of all sizes, tend to work mostly with small businesses, but lots of different retail brands. We are very design focused as an agency. I'd say that's really our special sauce. We love beautiful design, optimization, conversion, and really just building experiences that your customers will love. I would say all of our clients usually have a very strong mission, and that's really something that we care a lot about. So we work a lot with clients who elevate social issues, demand equality, make things that protect the planet. Awesome. So I thought what we could talk about today, I wanted to talk through some of the most common questions that we get from clients in terms of design specifically. So when we're meeting with clients, questions that they have on their mind are things like, should I just get started with a theme? Do we really need to do a custom design? How much should I invest in design if we do want to go that direction? Even though I am a designer by trade, I don't recommend that all of our clients jump in and fully do a custom design as soon as they're ready to sell online. I actually really recommend against it. So I thought we can kind of talk through some of that logic today. So I think there are kind of 3 types of clients that we see coming through our door, really that align to just kind of where you are in your journey. One would be that you're a brand that's just getting started. You haven't made any sales yet. Your biggest goal initially should be to assess your product's market fit. Is what you have to sell something that people even want? Is your product good for the people who are buying it? So that's sort of the first group that comes to us. The second would be that you're a brand that's already launched, likely maybe in a DIY capacity at first, or did some very minimal customizations. Maybe you had a logo made and some basic branding structure put around that. You're able to get traffic to your site. You've made some sales, but maybe after that initial excitement over the brand launch, your sales have been lackluster, the brand's underperforming, and you're like, great, now what do I do? That's probably our sweet spot. That's where most of our clients come to us, where they know a little bit about their business, but for some reason things aren't working quite right. Or 3, you could be a brand that has figured out a lot of the strategy behind the scenes. You know your positioning, you know your pricing, you know your market fit. You're making sales at a steady clip. You have a following that's loyal and engaged, but you're ready to go to the next level, which is growth. And that's where design can really help from a conversion perspective and making sure that you're optimizing that traffic that is coming to the site already. So those are sort of the 3 areas that we focus on. And based on what type of scenario you're in, you're going to be in various stages of an e-commerce flow. And so if you're doing e-commerce, you are probably pretty familiar with those stages, but I like to think of them in terms of what that means for what you should be doing design-wise or investing in. So I'm actually going to share screens and show a little presentation that we show clients. Let me pull it up. So this is our e-commerce flow, and this is where we start with clients to determine what type of design they may need. So the very first step in the flow is called product market fit. So this is the most important step this is the foundation where everything else builds on, and we need to answer that question. Is your product good for the people you're hoping will buy it? Second phase is positioning. So once you have that fit established, you need to figure out who your audience is, what that core messaging is to ensure that the product and brand are compelling to the people who follow you. Then we can get into the shopping experience. So building a shopping experience that clearly connects with the product, the audience, and reinforces your brand's positioning. That's really our sweet spot. And we can come in and look at everything from your online storefront, copy, packaging, emails, photography, all of that kind of comes into play at this point. And then from there, we're going to get into transactional communication and growth efforts. So how do we talk to clients everywhere, from their shipping notifications to Instagram, really making sure that your full site, your full brand experience is on point and cohesive. And then we can look at growth. So a lot of people kind of start with growth, and we kind of see it opposite. There's no point in spending a lot of time on community building and paid ads if you're driving them somewhere that isn't going to pay off. And so this is how we kind of look at prioritization and where we should be focusing. So we spend a lot of time with our customers kind of understanding what they have so far and making sure that they really are in a good place at each one of these points. So now I'm going to figure out how to unshare and keep yakking. Okay, cool. Awesome. So if you're in one of those three audiences we talked about at the beginning, it's likely you're in pretty different stages of that flow. For those getting started, you're probably in that first step, trying to get your product and market fit figured out. And there's definitely a lot you can learn by just installing a Shopify theme and launching. And so when clients come to us that are brand new, I really spend a lot of time with them figuring out, do you really know what you need? We often do full projects for clients who are getting started in the world. They don't have a logo, they have nothing, and they want some help. But I often intentionally keep the scope of those initial projects pretty small. Like, let's get you enough to determine, is this even what you should be doing? And a good example of that, a good example of that is we're working with an oatmeal brand right now. So they make overnight oats that are vegan, gluten-free, all clean ingredients, have some like really interesting superfoods in them. So they're super, super healthy and they actually keep you full. But when that client came to us, we asked questions around kind of positioning. So is this like a really elevated, minimal ingredient product or brand that's, we're going to really lead with the organic, vegan, super clean, aspirational lifestyle kind of feel, which to me, like visually feels like a really minimal, clean, white aesthetic. It's going to feel super premium. The price point probably is pretty high for what this product is. That's kind of one direction it could go. And there's so many questions within that around price and vision and like what is actually important about this product. Or this product could be positioned as like a really fun, flavorful breakfast for families on the go. It meets your nutritional needs. It has like hidden veggies sort of idea while being easy and yummy. The vibe here could be like super playful, super bright, really family friendly. And having answers to like, who are you as a brand really will help you get the most bang for your buck if you do decide to hire a designer. If you don't know the answer and you want the designer to explore all of those options, it will not be very affordable to kind of go in all of these different paths. And you could feel really confused at the end of the day because you don't know which option is the best if you don't know which of those audiences your target customer will be.
Yeah, so a lot of my e-commerce clients, especially when they're just starting out, they might sell jewelry or they might sell clothes. They might sell all of this, right? And a lot of them will come to me and they'll say, well, this is my brand name for example, my branding for my jewelry line, and this is my branding for clothing or whatever it might be, right? Home decor. And I am not a marketing expert or branding expert, but my response is usually the same. And it's, why not create one brand? You are the brand. You don't have to be, but most of the time you're the brand. You could sell multiple things under that. but start there with the branding, right? Forget the products. You can sell whatever you want. Think of companies like Nike, right? Nike sells 5,000 different products, but their brand is Nike. You know, same with Amazon and Apple, right? They all sell different things, but it's hard for, and me too, when I'm doing different brands, it's hard to wrap your head around that, right? Like, how do I incorporate everything into one brand? And I think that's like where a lot of people struggle in the beginning. So when they're starting to design their site, like, how do you know, their questions might be, you know, I don't really, you know, I have a brand name, yes, and a logo, but I don't really know who my customer is, or this and that. So I think it's great that you brought up, like, just in the beginning, you know, pick a theme, pick a Shopify theme, run with it, and then you can start to figure out what your branding will be. But then once you do that, really, you know, it's important, especially with, I think there's like $1 trillion of e-commerce money being spent this year, and that amount of sellers, the competition, it's important to really hone in on that brand, and your website or your landing pages is kind of what you need to show the customers for their journey. And that's going to set you apart from people that don't do that. So it could be little things, right, that sets you apart, where they might buy from you and not somebody else. Yeah, absolutely. We always tell, and, you know, just by nature of what I was hopping in to talk about today, I'm talking about a lot of visual stuff with brand, but we always tell clients your brand is literally just what people think about your products and your overall brand and vibe. It's just what people think about you. So, like, we could design something and it might look really beautiful, but if it's not resonating what you wanted to resonate with the customer, it's not an effective brand for you. If it makes people feel like, oh, this is super expensive, and they click away right away, that's what they think about your brand, regardless of anything else that you were looking to set out. And so the visuals are really important, but the brand is really outside of our control. And working really hard to have audience feedback is the most important thing, to make sure that as you do start to do visual elements or really hone in on the brand deliverables, things like a logo and how it looks on the screen and things like that, that should be informed by customer insights. And so the best way to get those is to pick an awesome Shopify 2.0 theme, put your products on it, start selling it, and ask a ton of questions along the way. Reach out to customers who have purchased from you multiple times and be really honest and personable and say, hey, I saw that you've purchased 3 boxes of our oatmeal. I'd love to hear what you thought. Can I ask you a few questions? What did you think when you first landed on the site? What made you buy the product? You know, all of those like basic questions, just being really scrappy with figuring out what those answers are really, really helpful in the beginning to figuring out what it is that people like about you, so that you can emphasize that. Oh, that's amazing. That's so important too. And I think a lot of people forget that, having those real communications, you know, it's in the beginning, it's manual legwork. Like, it's going to take a lot of time, right? You physically, I mean, there are tools that can do it, but you physically should reach out, you know, email. Maybe some people jump on a call or a video conference, say, hey, you know, and I think a lot of customers would appreciate that because they're not expecting that. And
it's so special. Like, I think customers purchase from small businesses because they want to know they're purchasing from humans and that they're a human supporting another human. My favorite thing to do is literally go into your e-commerce platform to like a customers tab and just sort by like number of purchases and contact like the first 10 people on that list, like your 10 best repeat customers, and reach out to them personally from the founder and just ask to hop on like a 10-minute call and chat. And I think the customers find it like, wow, Amazon has never called to be like, hey, you spend so much money with us every year. Can we ask you some questions about how to make this better for you? Like, that's never going to happen at Target or Amazon or places like that. And then, you know, sometimes clients will send them a gift card or something too, to thank them for their time. But you get hundreds of $1,000s worth of insight from doing that.
That's amazing advice. I mean, you really do. Not only are you getting insight for your brand, but you have potential referrals and potential testimonials from there, and reciprocity, right? Which is a big thing. Like, if a brand reached out to me, I'd be like, oh my God, they like really want my advice or insight. That's amazing. I'm going to buy it from them again. So great insight there.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. So I would say if you find yourself in that audience, my answer for, oh my gosh, should I do custom design is no. In the short, I think you should experiment. I think you should grow a following, get people coming to the site so that you can learn. A really good example of that, actually, from a real customer of ours that went that route, is that we worked with a brand who has a huge following on TikTok and Instagram. He's a food influencer, and he sells, well, he didn't start by selling anything. His handle is Salt Tank. And he started, I think, during the pandemic, just making cool food. He makes like a ton of really delicious looking sandwiches, and it's very like ASMR, like crunching sounds, and like really short videos that just look delicious.
As I'm on TikTok right now looking for this.
Yes, so good. And so he just started this during the pandemic, went like super viral, and was like, oh, I should totally capitalize on this moment. So he worked really hard and developed a line of seasoning salts that are super incredibly delicious. And he came to us and was like, hey, I'm thinking about redesigning, but in the short term, can you help us do like a few tweaks? And so we made a few tweaks to his site, and honestly, his site's performing so well on a theme that he just installed and got running quickly so that he could capitalize on the virality of the moment. And we haven't come back in and redesigned anything because it's effective. And I think down the road, as he wants to like go for a higher conversion rate, add new features, create bundles that can actually be tracked on the back end from an inventory perspective, there's a ton we can do. But we were just really honest that with that much traffic coming to the site and a really high level of credibility for his brand and his product, he has an amazing conversion rate. And the design is a little bit less centered than for other brands where you kind of need to build that and build that trust. He built that trust and that aesthetic offline on social, and that's good too. Like there is a lot of instant, when you look at his social feed, it's so credible, it's so high quality, it's so delicious looking. The website is kind of that second touch point to complete the transaction, and he actually does a lot of sales like directly through TikTok and Instagram integrations. That the storefront is slightly less important, but will become more important over time as he wants to grow this outside of a social platform where you don't have as much control over audience and ownability of speaking to your customers. Eventually that site is going to become super important, so you have an ownable presence that isn't Facebook controlled essentially. But you know, we don't always say, oh yeah, we should totally redesign this. In that case, we didn't need to.
No, I like that too, because there are a lot of designers who would just overhaul the whole thing. So I like that you guys work with the brands where they're at, especially their missions and their goals, to make their presence the best it can be.
Yeah, totally. And I think I don't know if your customers have heard this, but when I was learning web design, I learned a lot about conversion and like, oh, changing this button from green to red increased conversion rate X%. And there's a lot of those like tips and tricks or hacks along the way. And those things can be true, but you need like insane amounts of traffic to actually see that make a difference. And this happens to be a brand where that works, where we could come in and make a few tweaks to the product page to make it a little bit easier and friction-free to purchase, and that he would see a big result. Most of our clients don't have that much traffic to where we can make those like teeny tiny tweaks to conversion rate and see noticeable improvements. They do need bigger redesigns. And so that's kind of what I can get into next, but it is kind of cool to see when you can make small tweaks and have it actually make a huge difference.
So I have a question, I don't want to throw you off the presentation, but
yeah.
So speaking of that, now there are tweaks you can make to actually obviously convert better. What about the reverse side? Are there things that you see that people will have on their site kind of across the board that hurt conversions? That are just common things that you should never have, especially in the beginning when you're starting. Like you should never have it on your site. It's going to hurt your conversion rate.
Yeah, there are a couple that really quickly come to mind. I always focus most heavily on the product page. That's where people decide to convert or not convert. I think a big mistake that brands make are spending all of their time and energy telling a story on the homepage, and people are going to skip your homepage. I haven't looked at the stats recently, but within the last 5 years, I know there was a stat where it's like less than 20% of your site traffic comes to the homepage. So doing all of the work on the homepage, only 20% of people are going to see it. So a big miss I see is that on product pages, brands are not doing any credibility building or brand storytelling on those pages. So underneath your product form where you have your add to cart button, spend a little bit of time with some brand storytelling. And that might look like user-generated content, showing real customers using your product and loving it. It's not brand content, it's customer content. Maybe having a little blurb about how this is a real company with a real founder's picture on there, talking a little bit about where it's made, how it's made, if those are things that are worth celebrating. They can be subtle. Sometimes they can even just be icons. Like it doesn't need to be this huge, long scrolling page, but not sharing brand content on the product page is a huge miss. From a more technical perspective, a lot of clients come to us with just tons of apps installed because they've been DIYing. And the apps are like visually really clunky. A lot of clients will use apps for things like bundles, and it just adds like a widget to add multiple things to the cart at once. Bundles are amazing, but usually the app experience of the bundles is like super clunky. And then maybe there's like a pop-up for email that you're using an app for. And then there's a different plugin that you're using for reviews. And then there's another plugin you're using for Instagram feeds. And it just starts to look very discombobulated visually. And it really throws off the credibility factor when you can kind of just tell that this is like not a super professionally designed website, or it just feels like off. It like really, really triggers credibility, I think, in a big way, where you're like, is this legit? This doesn't look like someone's paying a lot of attention to what's happening here. And it affects site speed a lot, having that many apps. So as much as you can do to not rely on apps, I think that helps a lot from a conversion rate perspective. But it's really hard because Shopify loves apps.
Yeah, and so they push it, and it's hard not to kind of get caught up in that. So in the beginning, keep it simple, right? I mean, the other thing, I mean, that was great. The other thing too is even looking, it could look clunky, but also with all of the pop-ups, I mean, email pop-ups are important.
Cookie pop-ups, like so many pop-ups.
I don't know what the rates are about how long you spend on the site. I know it's not long, seconds. But if I click on a site and I'm confused as to how to purchase or where to find something, I'm out, right? So confused customer never buys. So keep it simple, right? And I love that. I love that you mentioned putting more of a story and things like that under the products themselves, because that's true. You Google like sweatshirt, for example, it's going to take you directly to that product page and not your home page. So, and that's where you want them to go, right? You want them to land there and buy right away. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, and that's sort of really the sweet spot where clients start to come with us. When they come to us is when they have launched a store and they've made a few sales, but things are dropping off. The conversion rate's low for the amount of traffic that they have coming to the site. They know they have something good. It's just that no one's buying once they're there. And I think those issues are really, that's where that really comes into play a lot, when you just have a lot going on. There's a design sort of phrase that people use a lot that is, we eat with our eyes. And I think that's very, very true on the internet. Like, you make those credibility and brand decisions within a split second of visiting a site. If you land and there's not 1,000 pop-ups in your face and you're seeing a really beautiful visual of the product and it creates some sort of emotional response in you, like, that's great. We are eating with our eyes here, and this is a great experience. Stanford did a credibility research study for the web and found that 75% of users will admit to making judgments about a company's overall credibility based on their website design. I'm surprised it's only 75%, to be honest. This week I was researching in the handyman contractor space online, and I can't tell you how many websites I looked at and I was like, nope, within 2 seconds, because the website was just super outdated. I could only call and leave a message to contact them. And so I probably made really split-second decisions about really great companies based on their website. And people do that every day. I'm sure all of them were wonderful humans and businesses to work with, and I didn't give them the time of day. And I don't think I'm alone there. And especially like Gen Z they have no patience for that online. And so if that's part of your audience, the numbers there, I'm sure, are way higher statistically. First impressions also are usually 94% design related. There was another study that found that, and that's something I think about and reference a lot, is that the first impression isn't about the price of your product. It's not about the, ingredients that you're using. It's design. And so that's really important to think about as you're kind of doing it yourself or hiring someone.
I like that too, because again, not a branding expert, but if I go to a site and I just forget the products, right? But if I don't like the site, and this is just me, but I'm sure other people like that, I'll click off and I'll never go back, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, maybe this is a cool site, a beautiful site. I like the story, maybe I'm not ready to buy one of these products yet, but that doesn't mean I won't go back.
Totally.
So it can really ruin that customer from being your customer and a potential future customer if your design or your branding is off compared mm-hmm. to if it isn't, maybe I could be a future purchaser if the product is right for me at that moment.
Yeah, that's so true. And then as a marketer or a, business person, that once that person's on your site, that gives you at least a chance to show up in front of them again. You can do some remarketing. You can use the data you have to help determine why this audience likes you or doesn't like you. It gives you a foot in the door that you wouldn't get otherwise. So I think kind of in that space, that you need to go down some sort of design route. That's where kind of coming to the table with some good ideas about who your brand is really great. And then you can hire an amazing web designer and a developer to help look at what it takes to really get you to that really good first impression and having a polished website. This is where working with an e-commerce designer is especially helpful, because we spend a lot of time not only making the brand really visually beautiful, but tailoring the shopping experience to the actual products you sell is something that's kind of hard to do just out of the box on Shopify. Selling t-shirts on Shopify is a way different experience than selling a wheelchair on Shopify. And those are both, types of brands that we work with. Wheelchairs are highly configurable to the size of your body and to your needs. There's tons of options. It's super expensive as a purchase, could be in the thousands of dollars. Selling a t-shirt is probably an impulse buy or fits a specific need. And so Shopify is a one-size-fits-all solution. Using their 3 options that you have to configure a product, you're going to quickly run out of variants that you can use. You're going to hit limitations within the Shopify system really quickly. And so working with a designer who can help work within the constraints that Shopify has to make sure that the actual product you're selling can be a really good experience to buy matters a lot. Even in a simpler way, we work with a client who sells spreadable jams and jellies and really delicious hot sauces. I keep using food brands. We do work with a lot of kinds of brands. I'm probably just hungry.
I know, I'm super hungry now that you're
I swear I'm not just a food designer. They're called Trade Street Jam. They're really awesome. And so we've worked with them to build bundling solutions that are really easy for them on the back end. So the jams are a perfect, easy product. There's no choices. You just hit add to cart. It's also a perfect product to buy more than one of at a time, because we're not going to pay $12 plus shipping for a single jar of jelly. Although it's totally worth the price point. It's delicious. But you're going to want to try multiples. And so we've worked to kind of build design tools that make it really easy to increase the average order size, to bundle and save. And we've done it in ways that don't require us to use apps, which bundles on Shopify are probably one of the top feature requests that we get from customers in terms of custom functionality. A lot of the apps require you to use a coupon code in order to get that bundle discount. Then you can't use that a coupon code for an other discount that you might have. It gets clunky. It often doesn't integrate with your inventory. So if you sell something in a bundle, your warehouse doesn't know that and your inventory numbers are all out of whack. So we can not only help build like a really awesome, fun add to cart experience for a bundle on the front end for customers and help curate like these go together. These all taste really nice together. We can do that on the front end. And then we can also link things on the back end to make your life from an operational perspective easier too. So that's like a common design thing that we can help with to improve UX on user experience, making things less clunky. Other things that we help brands do when we're looking at a visual redesign is, I have sort of mentioned it, but creating a product page that converts really well. If you're starting to play with ad spend, especially, you want to make sure your product page is like clutch. And so that often looks like things like pulling in really amazing opportunities for video content, really bold imagery, pulling your very best reviews out of the little widget that all of the reviews sit in and making some of those reviews really big, really visual, making them feel featured, designing really clever ways to offer upsell and cross-sell opportunities in ways that don't feel slimy or salesy or like a pop-up, like in the next 10 minutes, buy this. We don't do that kind of stuff. I don't think it works. But we design them in ways where you're presenting an upsell opportunity at just the right time, that it feels like a really natural thing to do and it doesn't feel like you're being pushed a lot. Lots of kind of just those visual. I'm not really a marketer by trade. I am a consumer. I do a lot of my own purchasing and I'm a designer. And so when I work with clients, I really think through like what feels good to me when I'm shopping. I know it doesn't feel good. And that's like pop-ups galore and things being added to my cart when I don't really need them to be, or things feeling clunky. And so we really, really just take a user-centric approach to being like, if I were buying this, what do I want it to do? Do I want them to show me 3 more jellies that I also might want? Or does that just feel annoying when I am coming here to purchase one thing? And so we often choose design and user experience over merchandising and marketing tactics. And that has worked really well. Like we see super high conversion rates without having to do tactics that feel really frustrating and creating friction along the purchase process for customers.
I like that you said that, because a lot of people get that confused too. There is a difference between marketing and building a website, or even your branding, right? Marketing is how do you get those customers to your website, right? Or how do you display your website or your brand or wherever it might be. I think ultimately the design of the website and design of the brand goes to that, because those are tools, right, that you use in, like you said before, in Facebook ads or Google ads, whatever, you're going to use that design and development to do that. So that's a good point. And a lot of people miss that. It's not marketing or sales. It's, if they come, we want them to come here and have a good user experience.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely our focus. And, luckily we have folks on our team who love marketing and art designers. And so we get to collaborate together, and they will help do email marketing or do some paid ads. And we'll have amazing insights on like, here's what we should do on this page to ensure that the marketing dollars and the marketing effort works. But I have always found that like not mixing those things always makes for the best experience, because you can really focus on one thing at a time and make it really good. And then I would say, and then if you're a big brand, that's really when those are, you're selling more online. That's when spending that time and effort and money on marketing is really helpful. And so that's where, once you kind of grow past that initial point and you're a really large brand, that's where we kind of come back to like, let us help you optimize and let's make small changes instead of just like overhauling everything. Because things are working, like you're selling a lot, you're driving traffic to the site, you've got a huge following on social, your paid ads are working. That's where we come back with really honest recommendations to like, maybe we don't overhaul this all at once, because we need to know what's working and what's not. And so then we'll go back to like an iterative approach with clients where we will tackle one page at a time in a redesign. We'll make small, usability changes and A/B tests to see, does it work better when we turn the main product area into a huge slideshow at the top with a video versus leading with a product? Should we put the reviews second, or should we put the reviews 8th? sort of in the line of priority. And we can make those little tweaks and A/B test to decide what works. And we can do that on their existing site even, so that then when we go into a redesign and we start looking at layout, we actually know the answers to exactly where to put things on the page that will convert. And so we get to do that with some of our bigger clients that are driving traffic to use data to make design decisions, which is amazing.
Yeah, I like that. And it's, to that point, it's hard. A lot of clients always ask, when do I do this? Or when in my business do I do this? On the legal side, especially, how big do I have to be to do this? And you could answer this better than me, but I think it's more of a proactive approach. I mean, you know where you're going, right? So it's not like, okay, I have to reach $1 million in sales, for example, right? And then I go talk to a designer. I think it's more proactive in, okay, I see where our projections are going, or I see how my brand's growing. That could be from day one or day two. It depends on what type of business you have, right? People are in different stages. So being more proactive and that will help you get to where you're going, as opposed to when you get there, do it, right? Because you'll get there faster.
Yeah. And I would say, don't be afraid to experiment, especially once you start to get traffic. You can learn so much by just making little changes to help you make really informed decisions. There's also a website that I got really into a couple years ago, working with a client, called usabilityhub.com. So this is a really cool platform where you can kind of test designs out on customers, but they're not your customers. So you can upload a mock-up of what would it look like if I rearranged the order of my homepage like this versus what I have today. You upload 2 mock-ups, and Usability Hub pays people to kind of answer questions, to test where would you click to do this? And then someone will click, or which one do you like better? And then they can choose an option. And depending on how many opinions you want, you can pay testers to kind of answer those questions for you. And it's pretty affordable. You get really quick feedback. You can get pretty pinpointed geographically on who you want to answer. It's pretty sweet. And so I've used it a lot when clients are struggling to make design decisions, or we don't have enough traffic to actually test it using our own website. Really quick and easy way to kind of make some choices and feel confident in the decisions that you're making. And I just dropped that link in. It was the
thank you. I don't even know
visibility sites, and I'm I want
visibility sciences. So ignore my link and use ASHLI's. I don't even know why.
Yeah. If you do start looking at usability stuff, there are tons of platforms. A lot of them are really expensive and really focused on enterprise grade clients. I've used a lot of those in a past life, but this one feels really good for small businesses to start dabbling in that area.
That's great. Thanks for that resource.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else, ASHLI? Or this is amazing. It's just try not to overwhelm everybody, but this is great. For me especially too, on the design side and development side. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is maybe I think a lot of I was even just colleagues have been how do I vet agencies? How do I find a design partner that's right for me? And my advice there is always look for a design partner who wants to be collaborative with you. Look for someone who will design with you and not for you. That is a huge difference. Look for someone who wants to be really transparent in the way that they're putting things together. Look for someone who is willing to share screens, make edits, iterate. Red flags to me, agency-wise or design partner-wise, are groups who limit the amount of revisions that you can make in a really hard and fast way. You get one opportunity to get this right, and then we're going to charge you a ton if you want to make changes. I wouldn't work with a partner like that. You want it to feel like a really collaborative process, and it's someone who wants to kind of get in on the brand with you. Collaboration and transparency are the biggest kind of things to vet when you're looking. Of course, what it looks like matters, but usually that's a little bit easier to figure out by looking at past client references. And then I would look for someone who wants to talk about the process and, all of the steps that they go through with you. Really clean communication, really nice. Here's where we are in this process. Here's what's going to happen next. Here's what to expect at this point. Here's what could go wrong. Here's what probably will go right. Communication, I think, is honestly more important than the design sometimes. And just working with someone that you trust. So that's usually what I tell my friends when they're like, I don't know who to hire to help me build this.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience working with your team on my branding side for ShopBlock, all of those boxes were checked. The collaboration, the listening, especially, right? I mean, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, you don't necessarily go in and say, I want this. You'll lean on your team for that. But just the way that we ended up coming up with everything, and it wasn't like, oh, you only get so many revisions or this or that. Mm-hmm. It's how do we represent and build your brand or your design in the way that you want or the way that's most effective, and fitting that within how you do business. So I can 100% say that your team does that better than anybody I've seen, which is great. So, and if you guys want to reach ASHLI too, I dropped her link with basis.com in here, but she's also, again, in that e-commerce expert space, and all her information is in there as well. If you have any follow-up questions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a direct message or email, however you want to do it. And Circle usually works best for messaging. And I could relay that over to ASHLI because I won't be able to answer that.
Love it.
Or answer it as good as she can. But yeah, so this was amazing. Actually, I really appreciate it. I don't want to take any more of your time. And obviously everybody that's watching, I know that that you guys have things to do as well. So thank you so much. And again, guys, if you need to reach ASHLI with basis.com or in Circle itself.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is fun.
No problem. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. Bye.